Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Really do appreciate it. As always, shout out to the 19. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Let's dive right in. So I posted this a few days ago, or almost a week ago now, a week ago exactly, when I finally got back online after my hiatus and talked about where is Caitlin Clark's Nike shoe, right? We've got companies like Wilson and Panini selling out everything that Caitlin Clark puts out in record time. You got the State Farm commercials. I mean, the Gatorade commercials, but Nike, for some reason, has shelved her. And like I said here, she needs to sue for breach of contract. Now, I know I'm overstating things a little bit. I'm sure Nike knows what they're doing in that regard, but this is absolutely ridiculous what Nike has been doing or not doing, we should say. I mean, Caitlin Clark's game, as we know, averaged almost 1.2 million viewers per game. Every game of the league without Caitlin Clark was under 400,000. It was about 394,000. Not in the same universe. You had away games packed wherever she goes. Crowds, you see her signing all these autographs pregame all the time. Teams like that were smart, like Atlanta and Washington, they moved to bigger arenas and sold out. You know, crowds of girls wearing her jersey in all of these arenas. And look, Nike signed her, or I should say, I guess, re-signed her. They had an NIL deal when she was in college, and then they signed her to an 8-year deal, which was incredibly cheap. I think it was what, 28 million. So Nike, I mean, to not be promoting Caitlin Clark, they must be doing amazing. They signed this woman to build a brand around, right? Caitlin Clark she's not a unicorn, folks. She is the unicorn. I mean, in a way, you can't even compare her to Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods because while they revolutionized the popularity, I guess, of their sports, they were both sports that maybe they weren't doing extremely well at the time that Michael arrived or Tiger arrived, but they were sports that were well established, that have been around a long time, that had a long history. Caitlin Clark came into a comparatively, relatively new league that has lost millions of dollars every single year. So obviously Nike's doing amazing to be withholding on the Caitlin Clark stuff, and we will get to that in a little bit. But first, I wanted to listen to this, okay? This is Aaron Kane, Caitlin Clark's agent. So I want to play this. It's going on a podcast talking about the marketing and stuff like that with regard to Caitlin Clark. So let's take a listen.
To represent Caitlin Clark. There's really no numbers to compare to because she's going to be off the charts. So how do you and your team think of unique ways, or like, you have to go and kind of go to the drawing boards and create something after that, right? Or is that stuff that you just create the new market?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's not an established playbook. And I am very lucky to be working with Alan Zucker, who's like probably one of the most iconic and prolific marketing agents in the history of sports. He works with Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, and I mean, just he's had like a ton of great experiences. And as far as clients like Caitlin, she's one of one. Mm-hmm. And
Absolutely.
so it really is just about like setting the market. And one thing Alan always says, and it's very true, is like the market tells us. Just like it's the fans that choose. I mean, there's this idea that like agents have all the control, or you can just sort of say something and make it into reality. But like the reality is you're reading the situation. Like it's the fans that choose. There's a handful of players that have like ignited this sort of level of excitement by being incredible at what they do, but also it's like how they do it. So it's Serena Williams, or I mean, you can pick. It's the iconic athletes, Simone Biles, especially when it's women. And Caitlin's one of those. It's like how she plays the game really captured the attention of a much, much broader fan base. And so when you're going to market, those are the those are the comps you're sort of thinking of. It's like a Serena or Simone or a Tiger Woods who changed golf, or because she's changing women's basketball. So
Okay. Well, first I gotta point out, did you notice a similarity between the three athletes that she named? I just thought that was kind of she was very, very careful with her choices. Now, the one thing I will say that I agree with before we get into the other stuff is something that the WNBA does not understand. Or, maybe they do. I mean, I think a lot of people are so brainwashed they don't understand. I think some do, but they don't care. So they want to play that whole, victim card stuff because they'll get something out of it. And that was the whole idea that the fans choose. That's what, again, and that's what a lot of people are refusing to understand or want to ignore. No one is clamoring to buy Asia Wilson's sneakers. No one was clamoring to watch the WNBA all these years. They want to watch Caitlin Clark. Um, but also to the other point, well, I'll get to it in a second. I just will say for, we go back a little bit. Caitlin really, I guess I would say her fame took off in 2022. Okay, I believe that was when Nike signed her to an NIL deal before, she gets out of college and they sign her to the 8-year deal. However, if you want to buy her shoe, that might not be out till 2026, 2027. And we're going to do not give me that crap about shoe design taking a long time. That is ridiculous. This entire board, all upper management at Nike needs to go. Get out. The stockholders should be suing, and we're going to get to that with Nike in a minute. You'll see why. Look, this is not normal. Despite the press making it seem that way, despite people really in mainstream not talking about it at all. I keep reading the excuses like I just mentioned about all the time and the input required to launch a shoe and blah, blah, blah. As though LeBron James wasn't playing in his own signature sneakers I believe his very first NBA game. But what I do know for absolute sure is that Nike signed LeBron James to his insane epic deal, I think of like $90 million in May of 2003, and he had his own signature shoe out there before the end of 2003. So don't give me this nonsense about how long this stuff takes. So what is it really? What is wrong with Nike? It's like they have no interest in collecting easy money. Like I said before, Caitlin Clark is not a unicorn. She is the unicorn. And Nike was able to get on board early with her thanks to NIL, and they've actually done absolutely nothing. They have done jack to market Caitlin Clark in any way, shape, or form, separate from the whole sneaker thing. This is crazy. I mean, this is Caitlin Clark when she plays a round of golf at a pro-am, folks. I believe this was after she finished up her 18 rounds last week at the Annika Sorenstam Pro-Am. And this is what you get with Caitlin Clark. You do not get this with any other WNBA player. You get this with very, very few athletes. And I would say in this day and age, you don't get this with comparatively. I'm not saying you don't get crowds for other athletes, but comparatively to Caitlin Clark, no matter where she goes or what she does, this is the attention that Caitlin Clark gets that other athletes simply don't. And yet again, Nike has done nothing. We have seen nothing. Caitlin had to wear Kobe sneakers in the playoffs. Nike lucked into the marketing chance of a generation for what would you call them, a sports apparel company, equipment company, whatever. And they used her to market an old product, an old sneaker. And by the way, yes, 100%. Well, I shouldn't say 100% and that it's the only factor, but 100% and that it's one of the factors. And that is all the nonsense that has gone on with WNBA MVP and also Nike athlete Asia Wilson. because Asia Wilson got all, she complained and made it a racial issue and all that. And we know what Nike's like in that. They're terrified to go against that stuff. But it's about a culture at the company that seems more concerned with what I just mentioned than they are in doing their jobs, which is making money for their shareholders. And it's really, really sad because Nike used to be they used to be the cool company. They used to be about pushing success boundaries. Nike had iconic slogans, two of my absolute favorite slogans, and I can't stand Nike. But they had slogans like "Just Do It," and my favorite, and I saw this in going back, because I believe it came out. It was the Olympics, and I believe it was at the time. I think and I can't remember their last names now because, like I said, this was long ago. Dan and Dan. There were two um, decathletes, I believe, right, in America that both had a shot at medaling in the Olympics. I think that's kind of where it started. They had that whole run of commercials, and then they had that slogan that came out around Olympics time. It says, "You don't win silver, you lose gold." Which I absolutely love that phrase. I think that's the mentality of any winning athlete, any all-time great. That's how they look at it. Because for most, it's not about winning so much as it is about not losing. The losses stick with the great players a lot more and the great athletes a lot longer than the wins do. You win, you celebrate, you move on. Bad losses, missed opportunities, they stick with you. But Nike used to have iconic slogans like that. Now they have mamby-pamby, fairness crap and pseudo-political slogans. Back in the day, they had Michael Jordan, who was smart enough to know everyone buys sneakers. So why are we alienating anyone? Yet, unfortunately, when Clark's shoe deal was announced, they got mad. Asia Wilson got angry and she played the victim card and the tanning card and all that nonsense. But to our agent's point, everyone knows it's about play style, but also charisma. Some have it, some don't. That's just, it's true with actors too, right? A lot of the so-called A-listers, the stars, they're not the best actors. They're not even close to the best actors, but they have something else that gets people into the theaters. Although none of them have that anymore, but they used to. There used to be mega stars that, you just put them in a film and you're going to open well and you're going to at least turn a profit. Caitlin Clark has that. Asia Wilson doesn't. And I don't mean to pick on Asia Wilson. It was just because it was a big deal with Nike at the time. But I say that about all of them, all of those players and athletes across the board. This isn't even a WNBA knock at all, folks. This is simply that other player. This is a rare, rare thing among athletes. Well, I'll show that in a second. But again, I won't show the whole thing, but back to this. This is what you get with Caitlin Clark. This is the motion, seems to be the word of choice nowadays, that you get with Caitlin Clark. This would not be happening with another WNBA player. I'm not saying people wouldn't want to go get autographs or what have you, but you had this huge crowd following Caitlin Clark around as she played another sport. By the way, pro-ams happen all the time. You get athletes from other sports, you get celebrities, actors, musicians that all play. You never see this. How often do you hear about this going on with other athletes? Do you know she just played a pro-am yesterday on the PGA Tour? I believe Tom Brady was in it as well. Anybody hear anything about Tom Brady other than he lost a poll big time as to who you would rather play golf with, Caitlin Clark or Tom Brady? We're talking about what most people consider the GOAT in the NFL, 7 Super Bowl championships as a quarterback, and people would rather play golf with Caitlin Clark. But back to that point with Wilson and Nike and all that. Remember I did a video on it with the whole nonsense with Asia Wilson and Kelsey Plum when they were watching Paige Beckers against Clark in last year's NCAA tournament, and Asia Wilson gave that insane, nonsensical BS to Kelsey Plum, basically insulting her to her face with that whole Paige reminds me of you because she knows her privilege has gotten her to that point. Not her basketball, of course. Although she did say, and also she did throw in, she's good at basketball, obviously, but she understands her privilege. It's like what pushes her over the top in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you, and I mean that as a compliment. It was not a compliment in any way, shape, or form. It is ridiculous. But that goes to my point about the fans choose. And Asia, the fans have chosen Caitlin Clark and they will buy products of Caitlin Clark's. They will buy things that Caitlin Clark endorses. That's just the way it is. This has nothing about to do with Caitlin Clark getting something that she doesn't deserve or privilege or all that other nonsense. Hey, remember all that stuff about how Caitlin Clark was going to struggle, and then how the Team USA coach even complained about the attention the Fever Phenom was getting early in the season about how, oh, it's more than about one player, and made a comment about how difficult it was to find Minnesota's game and all that other crap. It is absolutely insane. And Nike, for some reason, refuses to market her the way they should. Again, LeBron James, I believe even before his NBA debut, he had a memorable Bernie Mac commercial at the time. Bernie Mac, that was a big deal to have that. There's been no campaign like that around Clark. LeBron James had his signature sneaker again, like 5 months maybe after he signed his Nike deal. He had his signature sneaker available. It's amazing how Nike was able to manage to do that 21 years ago, but now somehow it just takes years and years to get out a sneaker. You have this, which I meant to show you, but this is who is this is last week's, right? This is last week's tournament with Nelly and Caitlin walking. And to the point of this is, someone pointed out, this right here, and it could be done fast. And I'm going to show you another commercial, an actual commercial in a minute. This is an epic chance at a crossover commercial for Nike. Doesn't even have to be a specific product, just Nike wear, folks. You've got the #1 golfer in the world and Caitlin Clark, both Nike athletes, walking up together, playing golf together. This absolutely, within a days, there should have been a commercial out there. But of course, there wasn't. And you're going to tell me it can't be done? Are we sure about that? Because I'm not going to play the audio because sometimes that messes things up. But this happened all that not that long ago, folks. Look, oh look, and that's Caitlin Clark. She's wearing her basketball uniform, of course. But what is she doing, folks? That is golf. State Farm. How many commercials has State Farm done now that have had Caitlin Clark in it? And where are the Nike commercials? How difficult is it for Nike to get a commercial like this out, folks? Just curious. Do you think they could do it? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous that this can be done by State Farm, but Nike can't do it. And hey, just one more for you, and I'm not going to play the whole thing because this minutes and 44 seconds. This was put out by the PGA Tour. Caitlin Clark, the unicorn. Folks, are we not understanding that? I just don't get what Nike is doing. And I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to show it all because it's almost 3 minutes long. But this is something the PGA Tour, by the way, I haven't checked the last couple of days, but at least until, say, yesterday or the day before, the WNBA has put out nothing about Caitlin Clark on their own website, or their own Twitter account, I should say, is probably more likely. Social media in general, they put out nothing about Caitlin Clark. The WNBA should be capitalizing on all this stuff. How come everybody seems to want Caitlin Clark and understands what she brings to the table, except the WNBA and woke Nike seem to be the only ones that do not understand, man. Caitlin Clark, and look, full disclosure, for a lot of these reasons, and going back from being I think, poor products to where they get their stuff made. By the way, please like and subscribe because the algo's not going to like this video talking this way about Nike. But anyway, I've not been a Nike fan, and it is clear here as to why. They simply, oh man, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me what they're doing. I want to show one more thing. Here's Nike's stock for the past year. By the way, new CEO as well, and you can see why. 31%, 30.87% year to date, not the past year. I'm sorry, year to date. So it's almost a year. Look at this, folks. Nike has plummeted. I think the high for the year was, at least at the end, it closed at 107.18 here, which I think was the high on the high on a close in the past year. It might have gone a little higher during the day, but so $107.18 per share, and it is now at 75.09. Is that right? 75.09, 75.06. It says 75.28 here. It is absolutely plummeted. And the point I wanted to make before that, sorry, what I was saying about Nike is because of all that, how I feel about Nike, I was disappointed to see Caitlin sign that deal with Nike. I thought it was too little money, and I didn't trust them. I'm not a fan of Nike as a company, and I don't think Caitlin Clark is the type of athlete that Nike is going to embrace, and I think they've made that clear. And I think behind the scenes, I don't know, she seems, I'm hoping with everything that's gone on, the leverage, and that it's worked out the way most people thought, unlike, say, Gino Ariemba and the entirety of sports media, especially at ESPN, it's worked out the way the knowledgeable basketball fans thought it would work out with Caitlin Clark. And so she has a lot more leverage now. And hopefully behind the scenes, she's going to Nike and saying, hey, look, this has got to stop. We've got to make some changes. We've got to get this done, and this done by this time, or we're going to have some serious issues in terms of getting me out of my contract. Because Nike, the way Nike is handling her is unacceptable, and it's time for Caitlin Clark to stop being so polite about everything. But I'm going to leave it there, folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're enjoying the content, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out tremendously, and I will talk to you later.